Wisdom podcast. Tonight's podcast is 7 ways why I rose out of emotional allegiance to my past, liberates me here and now. I never rise by replaying the echoes of who I used to be. I rise by unleashing and dissolving emotional allegiance to the versions of me that were built for survival, never expansion. Every time I unhook the old feeling, an old story, an old reflex wants to reclaim voltage that was trapped within yesterday's wiring. I rose out of the emotional allegiance because my past is never my prophet, it's my archive. And I am done worshiping archives. I'm here to rise, shine, and energize from my sovereign core, to rise to dissolving the self I've already outgrown. See, that's something we've all done. We've outgrown our old selves. Every second of every day is a fresh experience, dissolving who I've already been. My rise begins the moment I stop bowing to emotional history and instantly begin embodying the clarity that's been waiting beneath it. This is liberating in here and now, the inner uprising that turns memory into fuel instead of a master. Here's some new words you're going to hear, or fresh words you're going to hear throughout this podcast. Soul tattoos. Soul tattoos are the deep energetic imprints left by lived experiences and lineage that scripts your reactions before your mind even awakes. Emotional allegiance, the unconscious loyalty to old feelings and identities that hijacks your present power and reroutes your clarity through your past. Emotional snapshots, the charged moments your system freezes in time that keeps replaying themselves as if they're still happening now. How do you feel that? I've witnessed that. We think what's going out there, we are so rehearsed in our subconscious inner workings that we can make the present seem like operate through the past. Why is allegiance easier to dissolve than attachment? Allegiance is a contract. Attachment is a chemistry. Allegiance is an unconscious agreement you can revoke the moment you see it. Attachment is emotional bond your nervous system has rehearsed for years. Contracts dissolve fast. Chemistry takes time to unwind. Allegiance breaks with clarity. Attachment breaks with detox. Allegiance dissolves the moment you recognize it. This loyalty is outdated. It's a mental snap, a sovereign switch of here and now. Attachment requires emotional detox your system has to unhook from comfort, familiarity, and identity. Clarity dissolves allegiance. Embodiment dissolves attachment. Why I rose out of emotional allegiance to my past liberates me. Emotional allegiance keeps your power trapped in yesterday's wiring and in yesterday's capacitors. Capacitors store energy and they're never dissolved until you discharge them. When you stay loyal to old emotional patterns, you're never choosing, you're complying. How have you seen that? You're never choosing, but you're complying to what happened yesterday. Emotional allegiance is the invisible contract that hands your present power to past versions of you. Where do you see that in your life? I see that in my life a lot. But now that I'm opening my eyes of liberation, ears of emancipation, I set myself free. Rising out of it snaps the spell. It pulls your voltage out of memory and returns it to now to illuminate your inner landscape with your dreams. Where your rise actually happens. Where your rise actually happens is when you return it to, when you when you rise to the now. Breaking allegiance dissolves the emotional gravity that keeps you orbiting old identities. Your past has a gravitational pull. Stories, meanings, and reactions and interpretations. Emotional allegiance keeps you circling the same old planet the moment you rose out of it. The orbit breaks, your field lightens, your trajectory rises, and beams you into the wild frontier of your here and now. You stop reenacting who you were and instantly embodying who you are becoming and desire to be now. Rousing out of allegiance restores your sovereignty and claims your inner current. When you're fused to old emotions, your intuitions gets muffled. Your clarity gets hijacked and your voltage leaks into outdated narratives. Rising out of allegiance is liberation because it returns you to your owner. It gives you the ownership of your energy. Your signal becomes clean and clear. Your choices become sovereign. Your rise becomes inevitable. 7 ways why I rose out of emotional allegiance energetically liberates me. Emotional allegiance keeps you loyal to your outdated wiring. When you stay fused to old emotional patterns, you're never choosing, you're obeying. Emotional allegiance is an invisible contract that binds you to past versions of yourself. So rising out of it snaps the spell of hell and frees your inner current from looping inside inherited reactions and old scripts and let your energy flow towards who you desire to be, never who you were trained to be. See, that's the thing the world is living, is we're living who we were trained to be instead of who we desire, like the fire of our desire to be. Breaking allegiance dissolves emotional gravity that keeps you small. Emotional allegiance pulls you downward into old stories, old meanings, old identities, and it's gravitational. The moment you rise out of it, the weight drops, your field lightens, your intuition sharpens, you stop orbiting the same emotional planets and start moving on to your sovereign trajectory. Liberation begins the second you stop bowing to emotional history. And I have witnessed that a lot because that's what I have done is bow to emotional history. That's what drama, trauma, anger, frustration is emotional history. When you're emotionally entangled, your power leaks into the past. Your clarity gets hijacked by memory. Your intuition gets muffled by old echoes. Rising out of allegiance reclaims your voltage. It returns your energy to your present sovereignty. Your present signal, your present rise, that's energetic liberation. The moment your power stops serving your wounds and starts serving who you desire to be. Why emotional allegiance traps you in habitual memories. Emotional allegiance keeps you loyal to the emotional architecture you should have outgrown. When you stay fused to old feelings, you're never remembering, you're re-enlisting to the same events. That's what we do is we're serving to our past, re-enlisting into the same events. Emotional allegiance tricks you into honoring emotional blueprints that were built for survival, never expansion. You think you're being honest, but you're actually maintaining a membership in a version of you that no longer deserves your voltage. Emotional allegiance turns memories into muscle memory. The moment you emotionally bow to the past, your nervous system hits replay. That's why today is yesterday until we let go of yesterday today. Same reactions, same interpretations, same inner choreography. It's never nostalgia, it's neurological autopilot. How do we live in neurological autopilot? Emotional allegiance keeps you performing yesterday's script like it's still director of today. Emotional allegiance converts old moments into present day mandates. When you stay emotionally fused to what happened, your past stops being a memory and becomes a rule book. Every decision gets filtered through outdated meanings. Every rise gets slowed by emotional gravity. Allegiance gets you trapped because it conveniences you. How does living in the past convenience you rather than serve as a liberating vibration? The past still has jurisdiction over you now. And yes, it does. But when you admit it and you start rising out of and you cut off the allegiance, you rise out of it. Why I admit to my emotional allegiance energetically liberates me from habitual limitations. Admitting emotional allegiance exposes the invisible contracts running your life. The moment you name your emotional allegiance, you drag the hidden agreements into light and you stop pretending your reactions are just how you are and see them for what they are. They are old. They are old loyalties masquerading as personality. That honesty breaks the spell. Once you see the contract, you shred it. Awareness becomes liberation because you're stopped being ruled by wiring that didn't consciously choose. You see, we got a lot of stuff in the subconscious we're choosing, and we don't even know why or what we're choosing. Admitting allegiance interrupts the autopilot that keeps you replaying your limitations. Habitual limitations survive on denial. They thrive when you don't notice them. The second you admit I've been emotionally loyal to that old version of me, the autopilot collapses. You stop reenacting the same old emotional choreography. You stop performing the past. Stop living in the drama and trauma of your parents and your childhood. Admitting allegiance is the inner siren that wakes you from the trance and hands you back the operating handles of your life. Admitting allegiance returns the voltage to the present, where you rise and it actually happens. When you're emotionally fused to the past, your energy is stuck in yesterday's storyline. Admitting that allegiance snaps the tether. Your voltage comes home. Your voltage comes home, your clarity sharpens, your intuition rises with a laser beam of bright, enterprising audacity, magically expanding you through life. You stop leaking power into memories and start channeling it into your prowess to rise of who you are. That's energetic liberation, claiming the current electromotive forces that was trapped in emotional history. Why emotional snapshots, emotional allegiance, and soul tattoos unknowingly control your thinking, knowing, memory, mind that binds you in the past and ancestral programming. Emotional snapshots freeze moments into your mental mandates that override your present clarity. An emotional snapshot is never just a memory, it's a charged imprint that your nervous system treats like a rule. Charged imprint that your nervous system treats like a rule. The moment it's triggered, your mind stops operating from now and starts operating. As soon as it's triggered, it stops operating in the present and starts operating from your past. You think you're thinking, but you're actually replaying. These snapshots hijack your knowing, rerouting your clarity through outdated emotional filters that were never meant to guide you on your current rise. Emotional allegiance keeps you loyal to the inherited patterns you never consciously chose. Emotional allegiance is a silent oath you swear to old wounds, old meanings, and old identities. It convinces you that staying loyal to the past is safer than stepping into your here and now sovereignty. This allegiance binds your mind into ancestral programming, survival codes, family narratives, generational fears, and all masquerading as your truth. You're never choosing, you're complying with emotional history. Soul tattoos embed ancestral imprints into your identity, shaping your reactions before you think. Soul tattoos are the deep energetic markings left by lived experiences and lineages of your past. They operate beneath thought, beneath memory, and beneath logic. They script your reflexes, your interpretations, your emotional choreography. When these tattoos stay unexamined, they run your mind like background software. See, that's the thing. Your emotional snapshots, emotions and all your boundaries and everything you put in there, they run your mind like a software background, or the software running your mind from inside, binding you to patterns that feel personal but are actually inherited. That's the thing. We've inherited so much, but we think it's actually here and now. A lot of history we inherited, but it's never here and now. Liberation begins when you stop letting these imprints dictate your present signal and control your life. Why emotional snapshots, emotional allegiance, and soul tattoos are unrealized spirit saboteurs. Emotional snapshots freeze your spirit in the moment. Freeze your spirit in the moments your evolution has already outgrown. Emotional snapshot is never just a memory, it's a spiritual freeze frame that traps your inner current in a moment that no longer deserves your authority. These snapshots operate like silent saboteurs because they override your present signal with outdated emotional codes. Your spirit tries to rise, but the snapshots keep pulling you back into the emotional weather of a moment that you should have dissolved long ago. Emotional allegiance hands your spiritual steering wheel to the identities you no longer inhabit. When you stay emotionally loyal to old wounds, old meanings, and old versions of yourself, you're never being authentic, you're being obedient. And that's something this world really suffers through as social obedience. And I say suffer because social obedience takes us all the way back to our ancestors. Emotional allegiance is the spirit level sabotage that convinces you the past still has jurisdictions over your becoming. It binds your intuition, muffles your clarity, and reroutes your rise through emotional contracts you never consciously signed. And that's the thing. We're living a lot of contracts within our subconscious we never signed up for. But we're so emotionally allegiant, and they're emotional snapshots, and they control us, and we don't realize it. Allegiance is sabotage disguised as loyalty. Soul tattoos embed ancestral imprints that script your reactions before your spirit even speaks. Soul tattoos are deep, energetic markings left by lineage, trauma, and lived experiences. They operate beneath thought, beneath the emotions, and beneath awareness. These tattoos become spirit saboteurs because they script your reflexes and interpretations before your conscious sovereignty even enters the room. I use sovereignty over self because self has all the social obedience, emotional snapshots, emotional and all the emotional allegiance and soul tattoos. And so when you stay there, they're all running your. They are the scripts you run your life by. These tattoos become spirit saboteurs because your reflexes, interpretations before your conscious sovereignty even enters the room. They make inherited patterns feel like personal truth. Liberation begins when you recognize that tattoo, never the moment. It's what's moving you. Why emotional snapshots, emotional allegiance, and soul tattoos are unrealized dream destroyers. Emotional snapshots trap your future inside a moment your destiny has already outgrown. Emotional snapshot is a freeze frame that keeps you replaying itself as it still has authority. When you let that snapshot dictate your reactions, it shrinks your imagination to the size of an old moment. Dreams require spaciousness, but snapshots compress your vision into emotional weather of the past. They destroy dreams never by force, but by limiting the bandwidth of what you believe is the scenarios of your desired lifestyle. Emotional allegiance keeps you loyal to identities that can't carry your next level destiny. When you stay emotionally fused to who you used to be, you sabotage who you are and who you're becoming. Allegiance to the old wounds, old meanings, and old emotional choreography keeps you performing a version of yourself that was never designed to hold your highest dreams. Emotional allegiance destroys dreams by convincing you that your past deserves more loyalty than your future. Soul tattoos embedded inherited imprints that sabotage your rise before you even start. Soul tattoos are the deep, energetic markings left by lineage, trauma, and lived experiences. They operate beneath awareness, scripting your reflexes and interpretations before your dreams even get a chance to breathe. These tattoos become dream destroyers because they make ancestral limits feel like personal authenticity. They sabotage your rise by whispering old codes and old scripts into your here and now chapters. Why emotional snapshots, emotional allegiance, and soul tattoos keep your past and ancestral programming controlling your life in the present moment. Emotional snapshots replay old meanings as if it's still the master code of now. An emotional snapshot is never just a memory, it's a charged imprint that your system treats like a live command. The moment it's triggered, your mind stops responding to the present and starts reenacting the emotional weather of the past. These snapshots override your current clarity with outdated interpretations, letting yesterday's meaning dictate today's moves. How you see that in the world today? Yesterday dictates today's moves. Emotional allegiance keeps you loyal to identities and reactions you've already outgrown. When you stay emotionally fused to old wounds, old versions of yourself, you're never choosing, you're complying with emotional history. Allegiance convinces you that the past deserves your loyalty more than your evolution. The loyalty becomes a leash. It keeps your ancestral patterns and family codes and generational fears running your present moment like a background software. It's just like a CPU or a computer. That it's all the stuff inside the computer that runs it. That's like our life. All everything locked in our subconscious controls our life today. And you never consciously installed it. That's the thing. We have so much in the subconscious we've never even knew was in there, but it controls us. And that's what we're really here to do, is liberate you from them pop-ups. Whatever pops up out of nowhere is what's controlling you somewhere. Soul tattoos embed lineage imprints. That script, your reflexes before your awareness even arrives. Soul tattoos are the deep markings left by experience and ancestral inheritance. They operate beneath thought, beneath logic, beneath conscious choice. These tattoos become the unseen puppeteers shaping your reactions, your interpretation, your emotional choreography. When unexamined, they let ancestral programming steer your present life, making inherited limits feel like personal truth, while energetic liberation, cowboy wisdom, politically incorrect inspiration destroy emotional snapshots, emotional allegiance, and soul tattoos, unleashing sovereign activation and autonomous expansion. Cowboy wisdom cuts through emotional illusions with raw, unfiltered authenticity that dissolves the old imprint on impact. Energetic liberation paired with cowboy level straight talk never negotiates with emotional snapshots or tiptoes around inherited wounds. It calls them out, cracks them open, and exposes their fakery to you and the world. That politically incorrect clarity shatters the emotional holograms you've been bowing to. When truth stops being polite, when your authenticity stops being polite, emotional allegiance loses its power. Politically incorrect inspiration breaks the obedience reflex that keeps you loyal to ancestral programming. Emotional allegiance survives on compliance and on playing nice with your past, your lineage, your conditioning. Cowboy wisdom refuses that obedience. It teaches you to break rank, break the patterns, break the spells. The moment you stop being emotional appropriate, you stop reenacting the generational scripts tattooed into your psyche. That rupture unleashes sovereign activation because you stop performing inherited limits. That's the thing. Most of our stuff internally is inherited. So when you want to break the allegiance to your inherited crap, you'll set yourself free. Energetic liberation wires your field so your expansion becomes sovereignly authored by you, not past authored by your emotional snapshots, emotional allegiance, and your soul tattoos. When you destroy emotional snapshots, dissolve emotional allegiance, and outgrow soul tattoos, your energy stops orbiting old meanings. Your rise becomes autonomous, powered by your present signals and the frequencies of your foresight, never your past story. Energetic liberation turns your field into a sovereign electrical force. That's when sovereign activation ignites your expansion, becomes inevitable, ungoverned, and unapologetically yours. Why indoctrinated education, parent programming, third world enslaving mindsets, and ancestors programming deepen and strengthen emotional snapshots, emotional allegiance, and soul tattoos. Indoctrinated education and parent programming turn emotional snapshots into truth templates. You're trained to never question. See, that's about truth. That comes from many sources, but it ain't authentic. It's what you think, and you'll never think authentically. You're trained to never question. When you grow up inside systems that reward obedience and punish deviation, your emotional snapshots get reinforced as unquestionable facts. Schooling and parenting models built on conformity teach you to trust the emotional imprints more than your soul inner signals, your sovereign signals of your own veracity. These snapshots become the default lens, not because they're true, but because you're conditioned to treat them as sacred and they train you. The conditioning strengthens emotional allegiance by making gold emotional data feel like permanent identity that holds you back today. Third world survival mindsets hardwire emotional allegiance as a safety mechanism, never a choice. So when survival is the cultural baseline, emotional allegiance becomes a survival strategy. You stay loyal to fear, caution, and scarcity, and self-minimizing because these patterns once kept your lineage alive. That survival coding deepens soul tattoos, embedding generational trauma, vigilance, and emotional reflexes into your psyche. These imprints never just shape your reactions, they override your evolutions by convincing your systems that expansion is dangerous. Ancestral programming fuses emotional snapshots into soul tattoos that operate beneath awareness. Lineage carries emotional memories, unprocessed grief, fear, shame, silence, duty. These ancestral imprints merge with your own emotional snapshots, creating soul tattoos that feel like who you are instead of who you inherited. Because soul tattoos make you feel like who you are instead of what you inherited. This fusion strengthens emotional allegiance because you're never just loyal to your past, you're loyal to your ancestors' past. And that's something, do you recognize that? We're loyal to our ancestors' past? I do. Their programming becomes your reflex. Their wounds become your wiring. Their limits become your emotional gravity. Why emotional snapshots, emotional allegiance, and soul tattoos destroys free-flowing energy, intuition, listening, innovation, imagination, inspiration, and trusting your trend-setting talents. Emotional snapshots hijack your inner flow by replaying outdated emotional weather instead of allowing your intuition to breathe. When a snapshot fires, your system stops listening to the present and starts reacting to a moment long gone. That replays blocks intuitive clarity, shuts down intuitive creative listening, and replaces innovation with emotional deja vu. You can't imagine a fresh world when your nervous system is still obeying the old storms. Emotional allegiance keeps you loyal to emotional identities that choke your originality and mute your inspirations. Allegiance convinces you that staying fused to old feelings is truth, when it's actually social obedience. That loyalty drains your energy, dulls your imagination, and makes you second guess your own brilliance. You can never trust your trend-setting talents when you're still bowing to emotional versions of yourself. I witness that right now in myself. that were built for survival, never creation. So old tattoos script your reflexes before your genius even enters the room, blocking the very expansion you're built for. These deep lineage imprints operate beneath awareness, shaping your reactions before your creativity has a chance to speak. They sabotage innovation by making inherited limits feel like instinct. They dim inspiration by whispering ancestral caution into your present rise. They destroy free-flowing energy because they keep your field wired to history instead of the scenarios of your desired life. And that's something I've really been understanding now is we live inside what we've been trained all our time. And I really want to open up and say thank you, and may your life be blessed, and a very Merry Christmas.